What's up, everyone? Imagine a place where the water roars with brutal power. It falls from a height that takes your breath away. Boom! More than 150 meters of free fall. It's the Tequendama Falls, close to Bogotá in Colombia. It's not just a waterfall for a photo op. No, it has something more, something that grabs you. It gives you a little scare, but it pulls you in. Full of mystery, secrets in every drop and every rock. It feels like a horror movie. Almost always a thick fog, like it's smoking. The fog covers everything, a ghostly touch. It looks like something could come out of the mist. The sound of the water is deafening. A constant roar that doesn't let you think. It surrounds you and cuts you off from the world. If you go alone, you feel like the Salto is talking to you, telling you stories. Old stories. Tragic stories. It's a very, very strange feeling. And then there's the smell. Oh my goodness. It's not a smell of flowers, a strong smell, of dampness, of wet earth. Some say it smells of sadness, of years and years of accumulated stories. Walking there is entering another world. Old, twisted trees. They look like arms trying to grab you. Very heavy energy in the air. No wonder they tell ghost stories. Made for legends. Many people visit it, some for the beauty. Others go for the thrill. It's a place that leaves its mark on you. Once you know it, you never forget it. Never. Before the Spanish arrived, before all the modern stuff, the Muisca people lived here. They were an indigenous people with an amazing culture. For them, this place was super sacred. They had a really cool story to explain how the waterfall was formed. It wasn't geology or anything like that. It was magic. It was a god, Bochica. Bochica was an old man with a long white beard. He came to teach them how to weave, to teach them how to farm, to teach them how to be good people. He was their teacher, their guide. The Bogotá savannah was completely flooded, everything underwater. The people were desperate. They had nowhere to live. They had nothing to eat. They prayed to their gods, but nothing happened. They remembered Bochica and asked him for help. Bochica heard their pleas. He returned riding on a rainbow. He saw the disaster. He decided to act. With his golden staff, he stood in front of the mountains. The people watched him in awe. He raised his staff. He struck the rocks. The stones split in two. A huge crack opened up. Water started to pour out. It came out with incredible force. It formed the amazing waterfall. That's how the Tequendama Falls were born, according to the Muisca. It was a gift from Bochica to save them. For the Muisca, it wasn't a place of death. Quite the opposite. It was a symbol of life, of renewal, proof of the power and goodness of their gods, a sacred place to give thanks. The roar of the water wasn't terror. It was the voice of Bochica protecting them. This legend is the first piece of the mystery of the falls. But not all legends are as beautiful as Bochica's. Not at all. There are others that are much sadder, darker. Stories that give anyone goosebumps. One of the most famous is about two indigenous lovers. A forbidden love, like something out of a soap opera. They were from enemy tribes, or she was a princess, or he was a simple warrior. Their families and tribes were against them, but they loved each other like crazy. They couldn't live without each other, desperate, with no way out. They made a terrible decision, a final decision. If they couldn't be together in this life, they would be in the next. They went to the edge of the Tequendama Falls. They held hands. They looked into each other's eyes one last time. They shared a kiss. And without a second thought, they jumped together into the void, a pact of love and death. The gods were moved. They didn't let them die. They turned them into eagles. Two majestic eagles fly over the waterfall, forever together. Free from their families, free from their tribes, free from everything. A bittersweet ending. Tragic, but also romantic. This story turned the falls into a sanctuary, a door to another life. A place where the problems of this world disappeared. And without meaning to, it opened the door to a much, much darker reality. And this is where things get ugly. Really ugly. What started as a love legend turned into a terrible reality. In the 20th century, especially from the 1930s on, Tequendama Falls gained a new, horrible fame. It became the favorite spot for suicides in Colombia. It's terrible. People went there to take their own lives. The place filled with a real sadness, a sadness you could feel. They were no longer legends. They were real people, with real problems. Why there? Well, for several reasons. First, because of the legends, of course. The idea that the falls were a door to another life, an escape, was already in people's minds. The story of the lovers who turned into eagles gave death a romantic and even poetic touch. The height, the noise, the fog, all of it creates a very powerful scene. For a desperate mind, it could seem like the only worthy end to their pain. It's a very twisted way of thinking, but that's how it worked. The statistics are chilling. The newspapers of that time were full of stories. Another one at Tequendama. The falls claim a new victim. They talked about dozens of people every year. Men, women, young, old. They left goodbye letters in their cars. This wave of suicides created a vicious cycle. Each new case strengthened the place's reputation. It became a symbol of death. A terrible reputation that, even today, it struggles to shake off. Now let's talk about the unsung heroes of this story. The rescuers, the firefighters, and volunteers who had to go find the bodies. Imagine that job, going down those dangerous cliffs, among the slippery rocks and the river current, all to recover the remains of someone who decided to end it all. It's a job that breaks you inside. One of them said the hardest part wasn't the physical danger, it was the emotional impact. Seeing the family's pain, finding letters, photos, personal items, it's something that marks you forever. These rescuers have 1,000 stories, stories that don't make it into the newspapers. They say sometimes they spent days looking for a body. The river is very tricky. Sometimes they never found them. The waterfall kept them forever. They also talked about the energy of the place. They said that at the bottom of the canyon, you felt an incredible heaviness. And then there are those who survived. Yes, believe it or not, there were people who jumped and survived. A true miracle. Or a curse, depending on how you see it. They were shattered physically and mentally, but alive. And their message is almost always the same. Seek help. Talk. The Tequendama Falls isn't just a waterfall, it's a mirror of Colombian society, especially that of Bogotá. During the 20th century, Bogotá grew a lot. It went from being a small town to a big city. People from the countryside came to the city looking for chances. But many found loneliness, poverty, unemployment. The city could be very tough, very cold, and the falls were right there, close by, like an emergency exit. Back then, talking about mental problems was a big no-no. Oh, a huge no-no. Going to a psychologist was for crazy people. People kept their problems to themselves. Depression, anxiety, anguish. Everything was lived in silence. There weren't support systems like there are now. If you had a heart problem, a debt, a family tragedy, you had to deal with it alone. Also, the falls were a very popular spot. Bogotá's high society went there for outings. It was the weekend plan. It was in everyone's mind. It was an iconic place. In the end, the Tequendama Falls is a reflection of Colombia itself. All right, enough with the ghosts and legends, let's add some science to this. Because many of the things that make the Salto so mysterious actually have a scientific explanation. Simple and logical. Let's start with the famous mist. That fog that looks like it's from a horror movie. It's not the spirits of the dead, don't worry, it's a natural thing. It happens when the cold air from up high meets the water vapor from the waterfall as it crashes down. Pure physics. The powerful fall of the water breaks the drops into tiny pieces, making a constant cloud. Now the sound, that roar that surrounds you. It's not the voice of Bochica or the cries of sad souls either. It's from the huge amount of water falling more than 150 meters and hitting the rocks. The shape of the canyon, like a funnel, makes the sound louder. It makes it bounce all over, creating that loud, all-around sound. It's the raw power of nature, pure and strong. There's nothing spooky about it. It's just amazing. And what about that heavy feeling? That feeling of not being able to breathe that some people get? Well, there's an interesting idea. The pollution of the Bogotá River is really bad. The water carries all sorts of chemical and factory waste. When it falls over the waterfall, these tiny bits get released into the air. Lastly, the geology of this place is super cool. The Salto del Tequendama is a crack in the earth. So even though the legends are awesome, science gives us an explanation that's just as amazing. Today, in the middle of 2025, what does the Tequendama Falls mean for Colombia? Wow, it means a lot of things. It's a complex symbol, with many faces. On one hand, it's still that dark place, the place of suicides, of ghosts. But on the other hand, there are people fighting to change that. There's a movement to reclaim the falls, to bring back its old glory. The old Hotel del Salto, for example. It's not a ruin anymore. They restored it. Now it's a museum. The Tequendama Falls Museum House. A place dedicated to the biodiversity and history of the area. What a change. It's a very powerful symbolic act. It's like telling the world, this place isn't a graveyard, it's a natural and cultural treasure that we're going to protect. They're trying to change the story, so that people go to learn about nature, about Muisca history, and not just to look for ghosts. There's also a huge effort to clean up the Bogotá River. It's a giant project that will take years. But the first results are already showing. The idea is that one day the water at the falls will be clean again. Cleaning the river is like cleaning the soul of the place. It's an act of healing. In the end, the Tequendama Falls is a reflection of Colombia itself. It is, in one single image, the tragedy and hope of an entire country, right there,